The barking shattered the silence like a crack of thunder in a sky that had already emptied its tears. In a hall filled with bowed heads, trembling candles, and hearts weighed down by grief, the dog would not stop. Each bark echoed against the wooden walls and struck something deep inside the people gathered there. It was not the wild barking of fear or anger, but something desperate, urgent, almost pleading, as if the animal was fighting against time itself. The coffin stood at the center, polished, closed, and final. Everyone believed the story had already ended. No one was prepared for what was about to begin. Before the story continues, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that sometimes find us at our lowest points, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. The dog had been there since early morning, sitting beside the coffin with unwavering focus. His name was Max, a retired rescue dog with a history written in scars and service. He had once pulled survivors from rubble, tracked missing children through forests, and stood between danger and the people he loved. Now, long past his active years, his body was slower, his fur grayer, but his instincts remained sharp, almost frighteningly so. No one expected him to be there today. He had followed the family on his own, slipping out of the house before anyone noticed, as if pulled by an invisible thread. The coffin belonged to a small child, a life believed to have ended too soon. The family stood nearby, hollow-eyed and exhausted, barely holding themselves upright. Grief had drained the color from the room. Every breath felt heavy. The ceremony was meant to be quiet, respectful, a final farewell. But Max refused to accept that silence. He paced, sniffed the air, and barked again, louder this time, placing himself directly in front of the coffin like a guard who would not step aside. At first, people tried to ignore him. Some thought the dog was confused, reacting to the emotions in the room. Others felt uncomfortable, even annoyed, believing the barking disrupted a sacred moment. A few gently tried to pull him away, but Max resisted with surprising strength. His body trembled, his ears stood alert, and his eyes remained locked on the coffin. There was something about the way he barked that felt different, as if he was not reacting to the past, but to the present, to something still happening. The minutes stretched on, and tension began to replace sorrow. The officiant paused. Family members exchanged uncertain glances. The barking did not slow or soften. It grew more urgent, more rhythmic, as though Max had found a signal no human could sense. One of the mourners noticed how the dog pressed his nose against the wood, inhaling deeply, then barking again with renewed intensity. It was not random, it was focused, intentional. The child's mother stood frozen nearby, torn between heartbreak and confusion. She had barely spoken all day, her grief too heavy for words. But something about the dog's refusal stirred a fragile spark inside her. It was not hope, not yet, but doubt. Doubt is dangerous in moments like these, but it can also be powerful. She took a step forward, her legs weak, her hands shaking. The room held its breath as she looked down at the dog, then at the coffin that held everything she thought she had lost. People whispered that it was impossible, that death had already been confirmed, that this was only prolonging pain. But the dog did not understand impossibility. He only understood what his senses were telling him. His barking continued, now accompanied by a low whine, a sound filled with urgency and care. It was the sound he used when he found survivors buried under debris, when seconds mattered and silence could mean death. Finally, someone called for help. A paramedic who had come as a family friend stepped forward, uneasy but willing to listen. He knelt beside the coffin, placing his hand gently against the wood, as if humoring a desperate situation. The room was silent except for the dog, and then, faint but unmistakable, there was something else. A vibration, a subtle movement, so small it could have been imagined, but once noticed it could not be ignored. The atmosphere changed instantly. Grief turned into shock, shock into chaos. The paramedic acted quickly, calling for the coffin to be opened. Some people protested, others cried out, but no one could stop what was already happening. When the lid was lifted, time itself seemed to pause. The child lay still, pale, fragile, but there was warmth where there should have been none. A faint breath escaped, shallow but real. A heartbeat followed, weak but present. The room erupted into disbelief. Tears returned, but these were different. They were wild, uncontrollable, born from the collision of sorrow and hope. The dog barked one last time, then fell silent, sitting calmly beside the coffin, as if his job was finally done. The child was rushed away for emergency care, surrounded by hands that trembled with urgency and wonder. Later, doctors would say it was a rare condition, a state so deep it mimicked death. They would speak of medical explanations, delayed responses, and unlikely survival, but no explanation could fully capture what had happened in that room. No chart or report could explain why an old dog, long retired, had sensed life where everyone else saw only an ending. The days that followed felt unreal. The child recovered slowly, each small improvement celebrated like a victory against fate itself. The family moved from despair to gratitude, from mourning to disbelief. And through it all, Max remained close, quieter now, content, his presence steady and reassuring. He slept near the hospital bed, his head resting on the floor, his eyes always open just enough to watch. The story spread quickly, but not because of headlines or attention. It spread because people needed it. In a world filled with loss, it reminded everyone that endings are not always what they seem, that sometimes life whispers instead of shouts, and that miracles do not always come wrapped in light. Sometimes they come with fur, tired eyes, and a bark that refuses to stop. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something deep inside, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive and reaching the people who need them most. Before we end, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. In the end, the reason the dog kept barking was simple and extraordinary all at once. He listened when others had already let go. He trusted his instincts when logic said it was over. And because of that, a life was returned to a world that had already said goodbye. Some miracles are loud, some are quiet, but the most powerful ones are the ones that remind us to never stop listening, even when hope feels impossible.